Hey guys, join me as I replace, for the first time ever, a screen on this Steam Deck. What's up guys? So we're doing a Steam Deck repair, and basically what you're going to do to start out with is undo 8 screws on the back here. So we've got the the 4 that are centered on the back of the Steam Deck are actually shorter, and the 4 along the outside that are kind of on the grips, those are longer. But you want to keep track of those anyway. I use my LTT precision screwdriver lid in order to keep track of my screws. If you have like a magnetic holder or something like that, or a mat where you can keep that, I actually think that that's the better way to go. So, remove. And I actually already voiced this entire thing over once, but I didn't really voice it over once because I got like 90% of the way through the recording and then realized I didn't actually record. Alright, so here's what I'm doing. I'm going to flip it over. I'm trying to find a good seam where I can actually pop it apart, and then I found one. You see where the R1 and R2 buttons are right there? I like to stick that spudger right in that area and pop up, because it's always an area that makes it a little easier to access everything. It's a little weaker there, and there's a little more of a gap. So, and you're not going to hurt those buttons. Back cover's off. And now you just have to work on the metal cover that's covering the motherboard. Now, there are 3 screws here, but for some reason I thought there was only 2, because one is secretly hidden under a sticker, and you can probably already see the sticker that I'm talking about right there towards the top. It's a little metallic sticker. It's actually one of the stickers that holds the IHS onto the, I guess not the IHS, what is that? The heat pipes onto the CPU. So I'm like, oh yeah, there, pull that off. And then I found another Phillips screw. Right? Unscrew that. And you're off to the races. Your metal cover pulls right off, and then we can start working on everything else. Silly me, I like to undo other things first. So the first thing I'm going to undo here is the SSD. Pull that out, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's a plastic thing. Let's take tweezers and touch the board without pulling the battery. Wrong. Pull the battery first, like this. Pull the battery, because you don't want to short any components out on the motherboard, and then you may resume. That was a sticker that was covering the SSD port, and then you actually have to pull another sticker out from under that sticker in order to access the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna. And you pull that, and then there's a little cable down there that you have to pull too. And I don't know what that one is for. I didn't really pay too much attention. It might be a speaker cable. And then there's a little fan cable up there towards the top, kind of the same size as the cable I just pulled down below. But then I pull the sticker up that binds the heat pipe to the fan there. Hold that in position, and then I pull the remaining screws out for the CPU heat spreader, and I just set that aside. Alright, so next step after that is undoing screws for the motherboard. Now there are 3 screws for the motherboard, 2 at the top and 1 at the bottom. That one at the bottom kind of is just below where that Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna are. And then I pull the LCD cable. There's a little notch there. You flip it up just like you would any keyboard cable, and you pull that LCD cable back. And what you're going to do is carefully lift that motherboard. Carefully, because there are other cables still attached to it, and you want to make sure that you're not going to hurt anything. Doing what I'm doing here, I'm applying a little bit of flex, but I'm trying not to apply too much. There is an audio cable that runs right there. You see that right there? You have to lift the tab and pull that cable out. I'm using my tweezers to do this because Well, I have big fingers, and it's really hard to get my fingers down in there to actually take care of that. So there it popped, and there's a little adhesive on it. You're not going to hurt anything, but just pulling that as long as you're not yanking it. There's a little flip tab there. You pull that, and that disconnects that other daughter board for the left side control panel. All right. Now we're at a point where we're going to flip this over and apply the eye opener. Well, we will in just a second, but first we're going to loosen up this LCD cable that's kind of glued onto the frame of the Steam Deck. Then we flip over, and then in about 2 seconds we're going to grab our eye opener here and start applying that to the Steam Deck. Now the eye opener is a nifty little tool that it comes from ifixit. You throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds and heat it up, and then you throw it on your Steam Deck and it heats up the adhesive. And really, it's not just for a Steam Deck. You can use eye opener for things like an iPad or an iPhone or things like that. If it's a completely flat surface, though, my recommendation is just use one of those heating pads. But for a Steam Deck, it's a perfect application because you've got your I don't want to say Joy-Cons, but that's like what I'm thinking of. You've got your oh, why can I not think of the right word? It's late. It's like 11:02 when I'm voicing this over. Anyway, back to it. I decided to use, I have this, it kind of looks like a dent puller that you get from the auto parts store, but I actually bought that for pulling iPad and iPhone screens out because it's just easier. It adheres really well to things. It's got really good suction, and it's perfect. Take those guitar picks, and it kind of helps slice some of that adhesive that we just heated up. Now the adhesive on that right side there where you just saw me slicing, it's a lot thinner than it is on the left and the top. The bottom is also fairly thin, so I'm not too concerned about that, but I don't know, because this is my first time actually taking apart a Steam Deck. It still went fairly smooth in spite of not really having ever done this before. In fact, I would say it's easier than most phone screen repairs that I've ever dealt with. Probably 10 times easier than any Switch repair, too, because Switches, oh boy, there's so many little things you have to take out of those. In the Steam Deck, it's just the motherboard, and then you're done. SSD motherboard, undo a few cables, bing, bang, boom. Alright, we're getting close to where I'm about to pop the screen out here. Just start pulling, because we're very close anyway. And it doesn't really matter, we're not trying to save this screen for anything, because this screen has a big crack in it. Gosh, the word Joy-Con is definitely stuck in my head. It's a joystick. That's the word I was looking for, guys. Joystick. Okay. We got that screen pulled up, and you can see I'm going to pass that cable through from the back side. Pull it through all the way, just like that, and then boom, screen's out. Piece of cake. It actually wasn't terribly difficult. Like I said, I think a phone screen's actually more difficult to take out. There is a little bit of leftover adhesive that I spend probably about the next minute or so trying to scrape off of this thing. I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. Definitely sucks. But, you know, that was probably just because I was a little too impatient. Excuse you, chair. I need a new chair. This one's getting, oh gosh, I guess it's probably about 5 years old now. 4 or 5 years old now. And I know chairs are supposed to last longer than that, but this one is not that great. I mean, it's still very comfortable. It just makes a lot of noise now. Alright, still pulling that adhesive off. It doesn't really matter what you scrape with, because really you're not going to get anywhere without any isopropyl alcohol. You get some of it off, and that's a metal frame there that I'm pulling stuff off of anyway. So the fact that I'm scraping with my metal tweezers is not hurting anything. I'm not scratching plastic up or anything like that. I'm being very careful about that. Plus those tweezers are very precise, and pretty sharp, so they kind of slice through some of that stuff. But I don't do that for very long because I get a little frustrated. I actually pull that plastic spudger out, and that's what I'm going to toss some isopropyl alcohol on just to get things going. Do a little scrape. A little scrapey scrape. More scraping. And I'm like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. It's about here when I get the isopropyl alcohol. Spray it on the spudger. And then we just go to town on that. There we go. You can see that's a little more effective than what I was doing. Pull some of that off best I can and pick up the little pieces that fell off, and then we'll start talking about the next step. So the next step is scrape some more. Yeah. All right. Now, next step is actually going to be applying the adhesive strips. And that's what I'm showing you there, is pointing around the edges. We have to apply the new adhesive strips. Now, ifixit kind of screwed me on the adhesive strips, and you're going to see why in a minute. Half of them actually arrived stuck to the inside of their little paper tray thing. Like it didn't look like the backing was ever on it at any point in time. The official instructions from ifixit say stick the adhesive strips to the screen, and I didn't like that, so I didn't do that. I wanted to stick it to the frame of the Steam Deck because I thought that would be easier, and it was. It worked out well. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you right now is that I didn't want to... Yeah, there you go. You can see I'm showing you that adhesive that just arrives stuck, and it's got paper stuck to it. So that's garbage. But anyway, the adhesive strips here, I wanted to apply it to the Steam Deck directly because the screen, I view the screen as just like the most precious, fragile thing, especially because it's the most expensive part out of all of this that I'm working on. And so it's important to make sure that the screen is actually going to stay not cracked, you know, and I can see myself messing that up. Also, being able to freely slide the screen in and put it into position with the adhesive strips just already in place made it so much easier. I'm not gonna lie, guys, if you think that, and it's not going to be easy to do it this way because the adhesive strips that come with the ifixit kit are meant to be put on the screen first and then on the Steam Deck. Because what I'm doing here is I'm having to push really hard and then pull that strip back at like a 90-degree angle just to keep the adhesive on the Steam Deck. But it's doable. Obviously, it's doable, or I wouldn't be doing it. Okay. There you go. I'm not sure what happens with the lighting there. It's kind of strange. And that adhesive strip is for the side. So we're just going to pop that strip on the side and apply some pressure on that. Move the eye opener to the side. Apparently that was distracting me. I don't know. And this side pulls up fairly easy. Very good, because I put plenty of pressure on at the beginning. And then because ifixit screwed me in the department of my adhesive strips for the other half of the screen, thanks ifixit, I went to my own supply because I actually have adhesive strips that are essentially exactly the same thing, only it's on a roll for me because I bought a roll of it because I use it with iPhones when I replace iPhone screens, and I don't have the little adhesive strip kits that come with it. I'll apply these instead. They're also very similar to if you have an iMac. It's the adhesive strips that keep the iMac screen adhered to the frame of the computer. Just in case you wondered. But yeah, it's a double-sided electronic repair tape. It's very nice. I cut it down to a size here, and then I kind of just wedged it in there. It's actually the exact perfect size for this. If you guys are looking for that tape, like say ifixit screws you guys over and you need adhesive like that, Amazon, it's like $10 for it, if that. Okay? Don't be afraid to use something a little different. Now, I would definitely advise you to use this electronics repair tape, because it's the stuff this is what it's meant for, you know, holding screens in like this. But I wouldn't go buy like a clear double-sided tape or a thick double-sided tape, otherwise it just won't work for you. So yep, I folded it back, I snipped off the end there so that it went in at just the right angle, and then I think I do a little push along it just to adhere it to the frame of the Steam Deck there, and then try to work that paper off the top, because that paper has to come off, otherwise it won't adhere. But sometimes it's easier to access it from just a bubble point, so that's what I did there. You access it from a bubble point, and then you work it out, or you work that paper off the top. A little more difficult on the bottom strip apparently, but I'm thankful I had that on hand. If I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to finish this repair. And I'm just making sure the original strips that came with the ifixit kit are pushed all the way down. And now it's time to open the screen. Now I spent a little bit of time looking for an opening on the screen, like maybe the bubble wrap folded over. No, it doesn't fold over. It is sealed all the way around. It's like sealed. So basically they've got this screen and it fits perfectly inside there, with maybe like less than 1/4 of an inch of a gap around the outside. So if you're gonna cut it, be very, very careful, because it can be nerve-wracking. All right. And that cable that goes on the back, yeah. So they give you a little white cloth too. That's the other thing. That's to clean the screen at the end, but I also used it to rest the screen on while I put the cable on the back there. But there's another little cable. You slot it in the back of the screen. You push that down, and then there's a little adhesive spot there. I'm looking for my tweezers. There they are. You pull that blue film off. And then it sticks down over the connector. That way you don't have to worry about the connector coming out loose out of the back of the screen. Now this is the part that I struggled with for a little bit, because running that cable through the screen, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. Because it feels like you're scrunching it up, but in reality that's what you kind of have to do to get it to go through there right. But I was so worried about hitting the adhesive just wrong that I literally took the new screen and I set it next to the old screen, and I started bending the cable the same direction as the old screen, so it would just go in a little easier. But it's a little nerve-wracking because it doesn't feel like you're getting it in right. And here I'm picking it up out of view. I am sorry about that. Sometimes I get so involved in the project I don't even realize I'm keeping people from actually seeing what I'm doing. So here I am trying to line it up again, and I fail, or I'm at least too nervous. I wanna get it done right. You know what I mean? I think that's the big thing. So I'm looking at the other screen, comparing the cable bends, bending the cable the way it's supposed to go, and then I'm just like, YOLO, stick it in and go for it, because what else can you really do aside from just do it? There you go. There we go. I finally got over my nerves, and I put the screen in. I'm pushing on the adhesive around the outside there, try to just get it to adhere, and then I take that towel and I push down while rubbing along the outside edges, and doing that helps to secure that screen a little more and remove the fingerprints I just put on the screen. And this towel keeps everything nice and clean. Now, all done there, right? Well, time for the motherboard to go back in. So basically in reverse order. Everything that you did before, you're going to do it again. Only I screwed up and I tried to put this cable in upside down to begin with. And when it doesn't work, I'm like, why isn't this not working? What's going on? And then I realized, oh, I'm putting it in upside down. I need to have that cable flipped over, because that's the way it actually goes. It takes me a minute to realize that. I keep trying to put it in there. When it doesn't push down, that's when I start to realize, oh, I did that wrong. And there we go. There, I'm finally understanding. So there is a little adhesive between that ribbon cable and the one that's below it. Again, you're not going to hurt anything by pulling that adhesive out, right? So you just pull it off the adhesive gently. Then you can kind of flip that ribbon cable over and plug it in properly into your motherboard. Like so. Okay. And then you take your motherboard, scoot your cables out of the way. All the cables. Even that fan cable I got stuck down in between the motherboard that I haven't realized yet. And I'm like, why isn't it pushing down all the way? What's going on? And then I start focusing on the screen ribbon cable there for some reason. But I get that slid in and I get the connector pushed down, I think. And don't be afraid to pull on that a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world. You can use the adhesive. You can remove the adhesive backing if you want to off the back of it. It's not going to make a difference though. That screen's not going anywhere, so you don't have to adhere it to the back of the metal there. And then I'm like, oh no, I see my mistake. Fan cable. And then it pushes down. Right? And it sits exactly where it's supposed to. And then I think I decided here to put the screws in to the actual motherboard. So I kind of hold it in place while I get all the other cables plugged in. So you got your one there. It's also easy to forget after you go through the whole process like this where the screws actually go. Luckily I had them organized, so I was putting the plate over it just to see, okay, that's where those screws are going. So I know for a fact that this screw goes right here, because it doesn't go through the cover. Third screw goes in the bottom. Real easy. And then from there, it's plugging cables back in. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Get that audio cable plugged back in. Not sure what I'm doing over there. I'm plugging the fan cable back in. Making sure that's nice and secure. And then plugging the other cable that's like the fan cable in down below. Which again, I think that's just a speaker cable, but I don't really know. I didn't really pay attention to where it went. And then here I'm doing the other. I like to make sure that those Bluetooth and Wi-Fi cables are perfectly secure. And then I'm like, what's next? And then I noticed the big floppy cable just hanging out there. So time to plug the audio cable back into its terminal. Get that nice and secure. Push that tab down. There you go. Tweezers definitely help. If you don't have a good set of tweezers and you're trying to do this, highly recommend getting a good set of tweezers. And then you take a little sticker and you put it back over the Wi-Fi Bluetooth thing. Then you take the other sticker and you put it back over the Wi-Fi Bluetooth thing and under where the SSD is supposed to go. Then you can pop the SSD back in. Put the screw for the SSD in. Then the next step is actually cleaning off the thermal paste from the CPU. Right? Little IPA, 99%. And no, I don't mean India Pale Ale. I mean isopropyl alcohol, 99%. It's the only liquid I actually recommend people use on their machines because it actually dries things up Alright, so that's dried up then. And then I take the little tube of thermal paste that they give you, which is super cute. And you just squirt a little dab right on the CPU. Well, if you can ever get it unwrapped. That is. It's a little challenging. Little dab right there. Should do the trick. Then you're going to take that little rag they give you and you're going to wipe off that heat pipe thing as well with isopropyl alcohol. Or if it's dry enough, just crack it off and then put it back on. Flip up that sticker so it doesn't prematurely adhere. Push it down. Screw the 2 screws in that actually tighten that up. And stick your sticker down on your fan. Oh, I guess for me it was time to plug the battery back in. So that's what I did. Because largely at this point I am done messing around with the things on the motherboard. So basically I plugged the battery back in and put the metal cover back on. So you have to plug the battery back in before you put the metal cover back on. Because the battery cable plugs in underneath of the metal cover. And it kind of clicks in place. But of course you still have your 3 screws. You know, that third one that goes right there. And then your second one that goes at the bottom. And then the first one that goes at the top. Flip it over because we've done a great job and we want to make sure our screen actually works. However, Steam Deck is dead, so got to roll away and grab the charge cord. And I had to actually get up and go get it. So dumb. Plug it into the power strip that's under the desk. Plug in the USB-C. Press the power button. And freak out because it takes way too long for the Steam Deck to turn on when it's dead. Push and hold that power button again for a little bit. And this is the moment of truth for me. I'm like, please work, please work. Flip it up so it's looking at you. I'm like, come on, man, what are you doing? Push and hold the power button to drain anything left out of it and then plug it back in. And then I'm like, alright, what's going on? So I'm pushing and holding the power button again. And the light comes on the top, and that's what's so deceiving, is it's like the light is on, but there's no life in the screen yet. And then all of a sudden, there is. And I'm like, look guys, look at what I did. I got the screen working on the Steam Deck. A brand new screen. And there we go. Starting up the system. And I think I let it go into the games so that you guys can see the full screen is not cracked and everything's good. We got Batman and The Witcher and then there you go. Out of battery. It's powering down. So then you flip it back over. Put your back cover on and put your screws back in. And that's just about it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, if you guys really like this content, you know what I'm already going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to like this video. I'm also going to ask you to subscribe down below. And if you want more notifications, or if you want any notifications about new videos that I post, please hit that bell notification icon. Because this has been an adventure we are both going on together. It's been fun. Remember to put all your screws back where they went. Nobody likes loose screws. Or missing screws. Keep real good track of those. We're almost there. Almost there. Screw, 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 screw. Oh my gosh. One more screw after this. And we are golden. And with that, the Steam Deck is fully repaired. Flip it over, be proud of it. Give it one last good wipe down with the towel on the side that we didn't use to wipe thermal paste off the CPU. Just to make sure that screen's good and beautiful for the customer. Alright, grab the case and we'll put it away. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.